Number 13, Woolpack says, "Hey Mike, is it okay to listen to old music from former Christians like Kevin Max or Ray Boltz? Is their music prior to them leaving Christ okay to listen to? Thanks, and pet Moxie for me, please." All right, you know what? You asked. I have to pet her. Yes. So, and she's a licker. She likes to show her affection by cleaning my fingers all the time. So the idea of listening to music from someone who's a former Christian. Let me start by saying this. I don't know why that would be a problem. So in the case of say like Ravi Zacharias' content, the man was not, it wasn't a question of apostasy. He was victimizing people and his victims are still around. And so by promoting his content, we're throwing that in the face of the people he hurt. It's very different if it's a person who was, say, they did music, they at least named the name of Christ, and now they've fallen away, or they've rejected Christ, or they were never saved. I don't even care how you parse that. My point is, you look at their prior content and you go, that was honoring Christ, that was wonderful. I think it's okay to enjoy that, and to just, when you think of them, you mourn from where they came from and where they landed, where they ended. David kind of does this, right? King David does it with Saul. Saul was like good for 5 minutes as king of Israel, and then he turned ugly. And remember, we try to think biblically about things. So I'm thinking, is there a biblical example I can use? Well, Saul failed, right? But David still rejoiced at the memory of Saul. When Saul dies and Jonathan with him, he's grieved and he's heartbroken over it, because he doesn't feel like he has to discount everything Saul did just because Saul had such a bad ending. And we can get this from some other places too in Scripture. Gideon is a guy, and we read his story, and he starts well. Right? He starts as this lowly guy God uses in a mighty way. Just the whole fleece thing, they blow the trumpets and they break the clay vessels, and all this awesome stuff happens. But the end of his story is really lousy. You can still rejoice over the good of what Gideon did and grieve over the bad. So in that sense, yes, I don't have a problem with it, unless, my one caveat, by listening to their music and enjoying them, am I in some way contributing to a negative effect they're having now? And I don't think that's happening, but if that was happening, that would be where I would personally draw a line. Those are my thoughts on it, with a few scriptures that I think give us some examples that might parallel your question.